Another Dooley Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, welcome into another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios here. Steve Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We got a great show today. Tom Luginbill is going to join us. If you don't, I'm sure you know who Tom is. Tom does a lot of sideline reporting, does radio, he's all over the ESPN networks, and really, I really enjoy their Sunday show that he does with Barrett Salee. So we're going to have him today, and then on for Friday's show, Dan Wolken, the columnist for USA Today, is going to join us, and he's got strong opinions. Believe me, that'll be fun. If I'm here Tuesday, and the reason I say if I'm here Tuesday is because I have jury duty on Monday, and you never know what's going to happen. But if I'm here Tuesday for Wednesday, then we will have Coach Spurrier. But we'll wait and see. I can't make any promises. That's all I'm saying. All right, let us get to our Process Service of Gainesville starting five. We appreciate Scott Hart, the Process Service of Gainesville. Number one, Florida did start practice. They are officially underway. I think I saw where by Thursday everybody will be practicing in the SEC. Obviously Florida starts early because they have an early game, but that Thursday game. Vanderbilt had already started. But so Florida started. Like I always say, there is no good news that comes out of training camp. None. So hopefully nothing comes out of that. Nobody gets hurt. Nobody quits. Nobody leaves. I just continue to go back and forth. For example, and I'll give you a good example of that. For example, I'll give you a good example. Is that the way to say it? No. So we're going to give you a good example of that, and that is that I'm looking at what do I call it? The artist formerly known as Twitter. So I'm looking at the artist formerly known as Twitter, and there's this story this video of Dijon Johnson picking off two passes and running back for touchdowns, 2 pick sixes in his first practice as a Gator, and right away, I'm like, hey, man, okay, hey. And then you go, who threw those 2 passes? If that was Graham Mertz, it's going to be a long season. My point is, it's all about just getting the work in right now. What guys do in practice doesn't matter. So there's no good news that can come out of practice. Because you can't buy everything the coaches say, but you have to just accept what's going on. But it is going to be interesting. I still feel like they have put together a really solid group of players. Not a great group of players, but a really solid group. Probably a better group to go out there and go into battle, be in the trenches with them, that kind of thing, than they've had in a long time. So that's good news. But we'll see how it goes. Florida, they came out and said, I think it was ESPN, said Florida had the toughest schedule in the country, and I said, yeah, it's because they're in the SEC. They play Georgia. That's right there. They play LSU. Yeah, it's a tough schedule. It's not ridiculously tough though. And who's got easy schedules? Teams in the ACC. That's when I see those things and I go, well, this team has the easiest schedule. I think it was Boston College. Well, of course they're playing other ACC teams. It's almost ridiculous to think about it. Don't worry about it. Go play your schedule. Go win the game that week. That's my philosophy. All right, number 2 on Process Service of Gainesville, starting 5. All the rumors are flying, and they are thick. And I've seen them come and go before. It is funny to watch what happens when you have one realignment happen. When one realignment happens, boom, it just like sets off this tornado, and it just starts sweeping through every part of this great country of ours, okay? And everybody's trying to figure out who they want, who they don't want, who they should let in, who they shouldn't let in. It's wild, and the rumors start flying. Of course, with Colorado going to the Big 12, this is where it started, but it has been kind of crazy lately. I saw a story yesterday. And look, I am not saying any of these stories are not true. I'm not saying any of them are. I've been through the, well, there's no way that's happening, and it happened. I've been through that before. I'm telling you, I'm just going to give you history. I'm going to give you, but who knows if history even matters anymore. But you think about what's happened with realignment. Oklahoma and Texas, nobody saw that coming, right? All of a sudden, Oklahoma and Texas coming during media days in Hoover. And everybody's like, what the? And they had to just freak out, and that's all they talked about. Okay, UCLA and USC to the Big Ten. Nobody saw that coming. The only reason people saw a little bit of the Colorado to the Big 12 coming is because Colorado had to have a board meeting, and so it leaked out of that. Otherwise, that wouldn't have leaked out. So anything you hear, that's my caveat, anything you hear, any rumors you hear, probably are not true. These things, they keep in, Mission Impossible. Kind of a, just, if you accept this mission, you have to burn, yeah. So we'll see what happens there. But there's been this talk about, I did a thing, and I'm going to talk about on the radio later today about teams that get the eyeballs, because it's all about teams that get the eyeballs. And everybody's talking about Arizona to the Big Ten or Arizona to the Big 12 or whatever. Nobody watches their games. I looked it up. Last 3 years, I think they're like in the 60s every year. So why do you want them? Maybe you need them as a traveling partner for Arizona State, which does a little better, but not that much better. Or is it because, and this is a thing I think about a lot, is it because we push this SEC Big Ten dominance so much that people go, it's a Pac-12 game. I'm gonna go watch something else. So I don't know. There are a lot of things we're going to find out. I heard some people talking about this the other day. Well, I'll wait till Tom comes on and we'll talk to him about it. And of course, Notre Dame just signed a new 10-year deal with Under Armour, which is like record breaking. And they're like, this. You want to know why we don't join the conference? Here's why. Okay, this is all our money. We don't share it with Wake Forest. We don't share it with Vanderbilt. We don't share it with anybody. We share it with us. And that's what we do. All right, number 3 on the process service of Gainesville, starting 5. We played a 0-0 game last night. And when I say we, I'm talking about the United States. Thank goodness I did not stay up to watch that. And I wouldn't have stayed up. I would have had to set my alarm and get up at 3 o'clock. I think I was actually up at 3. I kind of was having some weird dreams, but I did not watch it. And there was no scoring. It's why soccer will never be in the top 2. Let's just put it that way. People love soccer, and I get it. I love why people love soccer, and I love soccer. I've covered soccer. I covered the Fort Lauderdale Strikers. I covered the Jacksonville T-Men. I covered soccer. I do like the sport, but it is not conducive to big numbers in ratings. And it's all TV shows, guys. That's all it is. We're all just producing TV shows. That's what's happening out at the Swamp. That's what's happening other places. That's all it is. We're producing TV shows. So now we're into the round of 16, so that's good. And we will play like in a month, probably. I have it written down here somewhere. I think it's Sunday they play again. It seems like a long time from now. Maybe it's later than that. I have it written down. Look at this gibberish on this screen. This is ridiculous. I mean, how am I supposed to read any of this stuff? But I'm always thinking of ideas. Okay, number 4. The debate continues, and it's been going on our radio show, on the tailgate, and it's been going on everywhere I go. People want to talk about the stadium. and what are they going to do to it? What can they do to it? What should they do to it? Scott Strickland was on our podcast Thursday for Friday, right? And we got it up Thursday night, right? Yeah, Thursday night. So he was great on that. I thought he answered all the questions. He went on Steve Russell's show again, I think on Monday, and did the same thing and answered all the same questions. So everybody's quoting them. You should quote us. We had this stuff first. Although the one thing they had first, or that he had first, or he didn't mention it to us, was that there's 180,000 square feet of office space behind the two end zones. That's where I went to school. I went to school in the stadium, and will I feel any sadness if they tear down that classroom where I sat there with Jean Chance the day she found out her father had passed away, and we both cried together. And I was a student, and I was like, I'm learning lessons in life, and I'm learning about being a sports writer and everything. And she didn't like my. No, I don't care. Mow it down. Make that stadium better. That stadium needs to get better. Okay, that's the bottom line. Same with Yon Hall. Look, if I've got a lot of stories from Yon Hall, John Redmond and those guys telling me, but do that. That seems like I think this is something that he mentioned on Steve Russell's show on Monday that I don't think anybody really thought about. And I had thought about what are the offices going to be? Right now, what's Scott Strickland's office is up there. What's going to happen there? So I guess they're going to keep some, but they're going to get rid. Believe me, if you're worried about the swamp, I will just tell you this: you're worried about the wrong thing. You got to worry about the players that come in there. The players that come in there are going to be coming into a better facility in their eyes. And that's what it's all about, is getting those players. Don't worry about the swamp. It'll still be loud. I promise you that. All right, so number 5 on our process service of Gainesville starting 5 is, I was very happy to see this, Chris Collinsworth going into the National Broadcasting Hall of Fame, where he deserves to be. Chris Collinsworth changed, the way Madden changed it, and Madden and Collinsworth, I think, are the only ones to win Emmys, only broadcasters to win Emmys, sports broadcast. So Collinsworth changed it because Collinsworth could come in there with that Titusville twang, and everybody loved him. He was just, and we all love him. He is such a great guy. I've had so many interactions with him. We've kind of, I'm not saying we've grown distant. I've had my life, he's had his life up there. But we were pretty close for a while, and I played in many of his golf tournaments, and that was one reason we were close. But had a great time doing that, and just to get him in there. But I also wonder about this. This is something where I've lobbied about this forever, about the Ring of Honor. The Ring of Honor literally might never have anybody else in it. Think about that. If Urban Meyer's the only one eligible, if nobody ever wins a national championship or a Heisman in the history of Florida football, it's going to be sadder right here. I get that, but nobody would be able to get in. So at some point, and all the things he's dealing with, Scott Strickland needs to go, hey, I am going to change some of the things, and a guy like Chris Collinsworth should be able to get in. Chris Collinsworth, Carlos Alvarez, Lomas Brown. Get those 3 in, I'll be happy. I will never say another word about the Ring of Honor. But the way it is now, it's stagnant. It really is. It's stagnant. All right, that's going to be our first segment. We always love it. Brought to you by, of course, Titan MRI, where I mentioned I got my, it turns out it is a displaced ligament. It's not torn, so that's good. That's good. I don't know if that means they can fix it, but it hurts all the time. And of course, coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios, we'll be back with the great Tom Luginbill. Can't wait to talk to him about where we are in college football, because I'm not sure. Sometimes I go, where are we? And then I realize in about 3.5 weeks, watching games. I ain't going to care where we are. But we'll talk to them about it anyway. You are watching or listening to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Another Dooley Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444.
Hi there, this is head ball coach Steve Spurrier, and I'm here with my wife Jerry and our good friend Sherry Houston, the executive director of the Ronald McDonald House Charities of North Central Florida. We're thrilled to announce that the 2-year anniversary of our restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, is coming up on August 14th. Last year, we had so much fun celebrating with everybody that we're doing it bigger and better this year. We're hosting a special dinner and celebration that will include a chef's choice of premium buffet or your favorite Spurrier Gridiron Grill menu, including a filet mignon carving station, shrimp and grits, short rib risotto, wonderful seafood options, and many dessert options also.
Like my famous chocolate chip cookies.
Proceeds being donated to the local Ronald McDonald House.
Thrilled to once again partner with Coach Jerry and the Spurrier Gridiron team to raise funds for the Ronald McDonald House, benefiting families and children experiencing medical emergencies.
Spurrier's Gridiron Grill will be donating 11% of all of our money from food and 66% of drink sales to the Ronald McDonald House.
Go to spurriers.com right now and reserve a ticket before they sell out.
We'll have wonderful food, special guests, and a limited edition of the 2nd year anniversary collector's coins, as well as prizes like a dinner with me and Jerry. We couldn't have become one of the busiest and most successful restaurants in the Southeast without your support. So we want to celebrate with the most important people of our team, and that's you.
I want to celebrate with some of those cookies. Do you have any of those?
Sure do. Right here for you.
Oh, thank you.
All right, welcome back to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. It's a great pleasure to bring in the great Tom Luginbill from ESPN, who knows recruiting, college football, XFL. We could go forever. I mean, golf. You know, I heard he played a few times. So,
how you doing, Pat?
Good. I'm sure you are in the mode of, it's almost here, thank God.
You know, the good thing about my situation personally is when it's not like heavy television season, for the most part, I work out of my home and I can dictate a lot of my schedule. And if I got high-speed internet and a cell phone, I can be at a lot of different places at once. And so that part of my schedule is about to come to a screeching halt. And now I'll go into go here, go there, do this game, do this show. So we're right on the cusp of that.
All right, I got to ask you, because I always look at people's walls. I got to know what the most prized possession behind your wall is.
Well, first of all, I have the room of a 12-year-old boy. I don't know. I mean, I got a Joe Montana signed ball right here. He was my guy. I got another Joe Montana thing up there. A couple of pictures of me as a player, as a coach. I don't know what my most. You know what it probably is, and it's not on camera. It's not behind me because it's a little bit large. But my daughter's a really gifted artist, like scholarship college artist.
Really?
And she did this picture of Abraham Lincoln that's over there, and she was like 7 years old, and it's like none of us could do it. We'd be drawing stick figures type things. So I should probably put that stuff up behind me. I got Jaws well represented. That's my favorite movie of all time. So I got to have some Jaws work back there. You got the Mandalorian Legos right here that my son made for me. I think I got a Mandalorian or a Lego Batman right there. I don't. Again, I mean, I'm what am I? 12? I mean, for crying out loud.
Well, if you hadn't used the Jaws reference, yeah, I would have called you a geek. But look, Jaws is my favorite movie of all time. And
Oh yeah.
back home, we got a taxi derby man going to have a heart attack when he see when I brung him. We quote Jaws every time. Me, Chris, Harry, Robbie, Andrew, our wives all go out. We just quote Jaws the whole time.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. It is. It's one of those movies that when it comes on, you stop what you're doing. Like you just say, "All right, I'm relinquishing an hour and a half here, 2 hours, and I've got to start paying attention."
Exactly. Yeah.
For the 100th time.
There's some that you stop. Tombstone, The Martian,
Right.
Goodfellas. You got to stop at those movies. You got to keep watching.
You have no choice.
All right, let's talk some football, Tom. And certainly, we're in a weird place in college football with NIL, transfer portal, realignment, all that stuff. I mean, by the time this show airs, which is tonight, or is it going to be tonight or tomorrow morning? Yeah. Okay. 9 more things could have happened, but
sure.
Where are we right now? What do you feel like as a college football fan, as a former player, as a broadcaster? Where are we in college football?
I don't know if we're necessarily in a healthy place, and not because, and I have people tell me all the time, oh, you're anti-player freedom or you're anti-NIL. No, I'm not. But we are a world and a country of structure and laws and rules, and we've essentially taken the most transformative legislation in maybe the last 40 years of the NCAA, and we dumped it on the laps of everybody with absolutely no plan or blueprint of how to execute it. No guidelines, no rules, no guardrails. I've heard that phrase used an awful lot. And so, you hear people say, well, we have the wild, wild west out here. Well, we really do. And I think that we've got to come to some happy medium between the player side and the university or the coaching side of, coming up with something that's manageable. And I know right now, from a player perspective, they want everything and not have to give up anything. And the coaches, right, they want to take some of what they feel like they've lost back. And, I look at, let's just say the NFL and the collective bargaining agreement in the NFL, both sides had to give up things. They had to make concessions to come to what was agreeable. We're not there right now in college athletics. In fact, we are anything from that. I mean, we're just, I think that in order for this thing to streamline, we're going to have to come up with some parameters that everybody can somewhat agree on. We're not going to agree on everything, but to give some direction on how to execute and manage this thing. I mean, we're throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars at players, and we're doing it at the high school level in recruiting, which it was never intended for. But if you had half a brain, you knew exactly what was going to happen, right? And then we have no way of managing it. We have no way of policing it, and we certainly have no way of enforcing it. And so, everybody that talked about name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal and how it was going to create parity, are you kidding me? How is it going to create parity? All it did is create a greater gap between the haves and the have-nots, because not all programs are created equal. So if you're in Alabama, or you're in Ohio State, or you're in Florida, or you're a Michigan, or a Clemson, or a Georgia, I'm sorry, but I don't care how much of a transfer portal you have or how much NIL space is out there on the market. You have vastly greater resources than a Kansas State's ever going to have, okay, or a Purdue is ever going to have. So we're not creating any parity here. The rich are just getting richer.
Let me throw this theory at you. I think because we're about to get rid of all, and I don't want to say it that in a negative way, all the COVID players. So the guys who played 6 years, 7 years, are about to all be done after this year. It only feels like it's going to get even more the haves and the haves and the haves and the guys with the most money, because you could kind of, like a TCU, or teams like that, where you could kind of find a way to win games because you had older players. You had 23, 24-year-old players who've been around for a long time.
There's no question that's going to happen. Rosters are going to get younger, and they're going to get less experienced. And I think that's where the transfer portal comes in, because people feel like, okay, well, maybe I can wave a magic wand here and get us better quickly at a position, as opposed to going the high school route and having to develop over the course of time. Well, the problem is yes, you may gain something instantly, but you're gaining it for a short period of time. And I think that, the way I put it is this. Is a transfer portal heavy team ever going to win a national championship or make the college football playoff? I don't think so. Georgia's not doing it. Yeah. Georgia's not doing it. Alabama did it with two proven players, Davis and Williams. Yeah. And the thing is too, and I know Davis Sweeney takes a lot of heat over this, but I agree with him. And if you look at the transfer portal, what's the purpose of it? To try and improve your roster, right? Well, if you're playing with Clemson's guys, how many guys are in the transfer portal that are better than what you have? You're better off sticking to recruiting. And Kirby's done the same thing. Nick's done the same thing for the most part. Ryan Day has done the same thing. And I think most programs with resources know they don't have to go the transfer portal route, but other teams that are trying to play catch up and become more competitive more quickly, particularly coaches because of the rule that are in their first year and can just completely gut the roster and start from scratch. Yes, there's value in the transfer portal, but I don't think you should just use the transfer portal for the sake of the transfer portal, especially if you're a team that doesn't need to do it.
Well, unless you're Dion, you just decided you got no players out there, which I'm not a big fan of that, what's going on out there, but
I'm not either, but it's the rules that we created.
It is the rules.
We allowed for that, and to his credit, and I will say this, he's essentially saying to the players, okay, you want all this player freedom? Go find it. It's not going to happen here.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden the player steps back and goes, well, wait a minute. Well, you don't get to have it both ways, right? And you're either gonna be in with the program or you're not going to be with the program. The problem is the math doesn't line up for anybody in the transfer portal. Look at the portal. Less than 50% of people actually land somewhere on scholarship. So somebody's not giving great information to a lot of these kids.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's explained the actual musical chairs theory there.
Correct.
Like at some point there is not a chair and you're not going to be able to sit down. So
it's like conference realignment. That's what's happening right now. These teams are all jockeying for survival, and the music's going to stop, and you're either going to be dropping down a group of 5 or you're going to be in the Power 5, whatever we call it 5-10 years from now. It's just like Colorado, what they did as a university. I mean, they just saved themselves,
Yeah, it's going to be, and again, I hope they're not counting on Dion being there for a long time. He's either going to be fired for NCAA infractions, or he's going to be in the NFL or at a even a bigger place in Colorado. And
I don't think there's going to be any gray area.
Yeah.
This thing is either going to be the most glorious experiment of success in the history of college athletics, or it is going to crash in flames. I don't think there'll be anywhere in the middle.
Yeah, and we're curious to see what's going to happen here. But let me ask you about, and again, Tom Luginbill joining us on our Big Mills Cheesesteak Zoom line, about the Oklahoma, Texas coming in here next year. And I think fans are kind of like, we already kind of know these teams. We play them in all these other sports. Florida and Oklahoma going head-to-head in gymnastics, head-to-head in softball, Florida, Texas playing in basketball. So it's not like these are teams that are coming out of nowhere, but it is going to be weird to have a 16-team SEC.
Well, that, and you're right in all of the other sports, but in football, you don't see regular season matchups like this. We don't see Texas and Mississippi State, right? We don't see Oklahoma and Kentucky, right? I mean, that's what's going to be kind of cool about it. And I think, and I've been asked this question a lot about those two teams as they come into the league. Yes, they're blue blood programs, but they're not built the way the successful championship caliber teams are built in the SEC. I think there's going to be a significant adjustment period, particularly in the trenches on both sides of the ball, and particularly with Oklahoma, because they're such an outlier in proximity to where all the great players are that, in the Big 12, they just go over state lines, and the state is so massive. You got 375 kids on average signing a letter of intent at the FBS level. All right, that's how you build your roster. Well, now, and Brent Venables knows this, having been at Clemson, they're going to have to go into Louisiana, and they're going to have to go into Georgia and Florida, and they're going to have to steal people from other people's backyards. And I think Texas, to some degree, feels good about the state of Texas, but they're going to have to dip into some other areas too. And if anybody thinks that, oh, well, it's just they're going to come right in and just light the world on fire, well, look at Texas A&M. Texas A&M has sniffed going to Atlanta one time since 2012. Once. In fact, a lot of people would be shocked to hear this. Yeah, a lot of people would be shocked to hear this. They have had 2 10-win seasons in 25 years.
Wow.
2, wow. That's it. So, like, to me, until the talent gap, particularly in the trenches on both sides for both teams, until that closes, I think initially you might see some struggles from Oklahoma and Texas coming into the league.
You know, I told you this earlier, but I do love, and I talked about it earlier on the show, I do love listening to your show Sunday when you're on with Barrett. That's great stuff. I mean, it's when you're driving to the gym and you're like dreading it, and then you get to listen to somebody talking college football, and you're just like, oh, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get on that elliptical, whatever it is. But yeah, it's great fun. But I was listening the other day, and I mean, you guys made a point, and I don't disagree with you at all, that Florida's relevancy is in question right now, and that's what Billy Napier's got to do, is get Florida back just to being relevant before he gets them to be national champion worthy.
Well, and I want to say something too, particularly as it relates to Billy Napier, and I understand how the fan base and how finicky it can be there, and you know, Chris Doring and myself talk about this all the time, and you know, Coach has worked himself up and earned that job. Okay, he didn't just take the Florida job and all of a sudden start taking stupid pills, right? I mean, he's worked for great people. He's seen how championship level programs are built. He went and built his own, right, and earned this job. Now, the timing of this, I think, works out well because, as you know, and maybe and your listeners certainly know, finally Florida is coming around to the arms race side of things, right? So they can be competitive in that market. It's not too dissimilar to South Carolina 3 years ago, where they finally have a football operations facility where their coaches' offices aren't in a small building in the end zone of the stadium, right? So now you're starting to compete from that perspective, because it does matter when you do bring kids on campus and you do have unofficial and official visits, and you know what the competitive landscape is. You're either in or you're out. Right, and I'm hoping that the timing of that for Billy Napier works out really, really well. Of course, you have negative publicity in the off season. We've got NIL type stuff that I think plagued them a little bit, and I don't know if anybody truly knows what did or did not go down with the quarterback. And quite honestly, I don't care. But Billy Napier obviously cares because it's perception, right? And so much in recruiting, so much of player evaluation, in identifying the right guys and having them have interest in you, is the perception of where your program is right now and where it's going to be and what's the vision and how is that being laid out. And I think it's highly unfair, and I could be proven totally wrong. 5 years from now, it could be a disaster, but let's not go from 1 year to year two and act like the entire thing is just crumbling. I think that's I understand the world we're living in, and everybody wants it yesterday, right? Yeah, and they want to wave the magic wand in the whole 9 yards. And you know what? I know Florida is not Kentucky, but I credit Kentucky in this regard. That thing was a dumpster fire when they hired Mark Stoops. And from an administrative standpoint, they basically said, do what it takes. We'll help you along the way. And guess what? It started getting a little bit better. Now, all of a sudden, their stadium's revamped. They got a brand new indoor practice facility. Then next thing you know, they've got brand new practice fields. Then they've got a brand new football operations facility. All incrementally happened as they continue to show improvement, and the university invested in the coach. And they invested in the fact that they were willing to understand that it may not be a magic wand, wave it around, and poof, we're an 11-win team. You know, and I think that's what I hope for Florida fans. And I know the expectation is different there. But I use that analogy because we're in an instant gratification world, and fans want it right now. They want it yesterday. But the reality of this landscape of college athletics now is so vastly different than it was even 5 years ago. And I know, fair and unfair doesn't matter, and you're based on wins and losses. But let's not just act like all of a sudden Billy Napier doesn't know what he's doing, right? Or his staff doesn't know what he's doing. If we want to make that assessment, let's make that assessment 3 years down the road.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I mean, it is different here than it is in a lot of places.
Yeah, it is.
And,
yep.
This is a place that got rid of a coach that was coach of the year 2 years after he was coach of the year. Then they got rid of a guy who won 2 straight SEC East championships. Then they got rid of a guy who went to 3 straight New Year's 6 bowl games. However, in each case, I agreed with them getting rid of him because there was other stuff going on. But it is a tough fan base. It is time for us to play Yes, Nowhere, Maybe with the great Tom Luginbill. And, of course, it is brought to you by Big Mill's Cheesesteak, street dining done the right way, and sponsors of the Bob Dooley Invitational. Number 1 on Yes, Nowhere, Maybe. Tom, a year from now, you'll be sitting here on this show going, I can't believe there was expansion again.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
But I won't.
Yeah. I'm sorry, in terms of realignment. Realignment's the word.
Realignment.
Yeah.
My question is yes, but the other part about it is I won't be surprised.
Yeah.
So I won't be surprised, number 1, to be sitting here on your show with you, and number 2, I won't be surprised I won't be surprised that realignment has occurred at all. And again, with the granted rights and what the ACC is going through right now, what we've seen transpire with the Pac-12. My hope, though, is that we don't find ourselves a year from now right now and there is no Pac-12. That's what I hope we don't have.
I agree with you. I mean, it's kind of fun to poke fun at them and say, oh, look at the way great 2 commissioners you've had lately. You think about how lucky the SEC is to have Kramer, Slive, Sankey. I mean, that's a pretty dynamic trio there. But we want 5 conferences. We don't want this thing just to come 2 conferences and that's all that matters, because you know what that does? Reduce the number of great games we get to watch.
No doubt. And we need West Coast football. It's a different brand. It's fun as all get out to watch. The games are ridiculously competitive. And I'd make an argument in this coming year, the best group of quarterbacks in the entire country are all in the Pac-12.
I think so. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Number 2 on Yes, Nowhere. Yes. Okay. Number 2 on Yes, Nowhere, Maybe. You would take Florida, the over on 5.5 wins, which is what the line is in Vegas.
Maybe, but the schedule is brutal.
Yeah,
Maybe,
tough.
but the schedule is brutal. And here's what I would say to that. And I think this is a storyline that is scattered throughout college football with many blue blood programs. Is if the quarterback pans out, if a quarterback pans out, all of a sudden your fortune can change real quickly, because that player can mask maybe some other deficiencies that become clarify when you don't have a quarterback. So to me, I would say maybe on that one. The schedule's brutal.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, my thing is, I think people are making the schedule a little bit tougher than it is, because there was a time when you would beat Kentucky every year and beat Vanderbilt every year. And so you just got to get back to that, beat South Carolina every year. All right, number 3 on Yes, Nowhere, Maybe for the great Tom Luginbill. It is a miracle that you were the ACC Rookie of the Year on a team that went 1-10 at Georgia Tech.
Yeah, not on every publication, but somebody did name me that, and yes, that was a miracle. Oh man, I tell you what, we could do an entire show on that year.
I can't believe you were Rookie of the Year and you won one game.
and beat out a returning starter when I transferred there from junior college.
Yeah, that's right.
And that was that was a long time ago, my friend.
It was, but it's pretty. Still, you obviously were impressing people. I mean, and then where'd you go to?
I had a real. I will say this. I had a really unique college career because I will say this, I was self-made as a college football player, meaning this. I was not recruited out of high school. I was undersized. I was a late bloomer. I played in the wing T offense. My dad was the head coach at San Diego State at the time, and he was like, listen, if you really want to play college football and you really want to prove yourself as a quarterback, go play junior college football. And that's what I did. And 2 years later, broke every passing record in the country, was recruited by most everybody that recruits junior colleges, was offered multiple scholarships. So I ended up transferring to Georgia Tech. And a lot of the reason why was because Bill Lewis at the time was the head coach there. And my dad and Bill Lewis had coached together for 1 year at Wyoming.
Yeah, that's right.
If I had to do it over again, I would not have made the decision for that reason. And that was a large part of the reason. But anyway, so I go there, beat out a returning starter. We have a horrible year. And it was a great learning lesson for me. I'm all the way across the country. Then George O'Leary comes in, and next thing you know, it wasn't triple option Paul Johnson, but it was Ralph Friedgen, and Joe Hamilton was on the way, and they were morphing to a run-heavy quarterback deal, and that wasn't me. So then I end up transferring to Eastern Kentucky, and this was in those days where you had to sit out and you had to transfer down. I never redshirted, so I didn't have to transfer down. But I also got to play for a legend in Roy Kidd at Eastern Kentucky. So I had such an eclectic playing career. I was a 4-year starter, never missed a game I was eligible for. I got to play at 3 different levels of college football with 3 different tiers of athletes, which was a heck of a lot of fun, to be honest with you. I look back on it, it was a great experience.
So basically, you invented the transfer portal.
Yeah, I invented the transfer portal. I had somebody give me some heat about that. Why are you against transferring? You transferred. I was like, whoa. I've been against transferring and open transferring for kids who haven't even been on campus for a year or two.
Yeah.
That the moment something goes bad, what do? They pack up their ball and they want to go home. Right? That's not healthy. I don't think that's good for the sport. I don't think that's good for developing young men. Right? And I always push back. I was like, whoa. I had to make myself into a quarterback. Then I chose to go to a school that had a returning starter. And then, by the way, when I left that school, I had 3 weeks to beat out a guy when I got to Eastern Kentucky. So let's compare apples and apples here. But I also, you know what though, Pat? I knew the rules. I knew that if I was going to transfer, I was going to have to sit out. Those are the rules. I didn't bitch and moan about it. I could have gone and sat out and then played my senior year, but I really wanted to play right away. I had no problem going down to the 1AA level, or FCS as it is now.
Who was that starter at Georgia Tech?
Donnie Davis, who was a phenomenal athlete. And we actually played him some at receiver that year. And then he ended up being more the running quarterback the year after. And that kind of started George O'Leary's tenure of success there on the flats.
I know I said it would be 15 minutes. We kept you for 25 because I love talking to you, Tom, and we'll get you on.
That's all right.
As we get deeper into the football season. It's going to be a fun season. I can't wait for it to get here. We can put NIL, transfer portal, everything behind us. Just watch games. I can't wait for it.
I hear you, man. Talking season, as your former head ball coach used to say, is almost over.
It is. It's close to being over. Thanks again, Tom.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
All right, Tom Luginbill, unbelievable. That was great. I could have talked to him for 4 hours. We'll be back with more on another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from another duly noted podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it. Process Service of Gainesville offers a rapid turnaround on affidavits of service for Gator lawyers locally and nationwide. Our friend Scott Hart offers immediate responses on status requests and is a member of NAPS and FAPS. and he has been a part of the community for almost 2 decades. Need service? Call Process Service of Gainesville at 407-697-9592 or email shartgators, that's G8TR, at yahoo.com. And make sure you ask about the paralegal legal secretary bonus program.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
Okay, so we're back with another Dooley Noted podcast, and this is the play of the weekend. And there weren't a lot of positive plays. Oh, but what a catch that was in center field. I assume that was Michael Harris making that catch in center. Yep, it was. And robbing Ohtani, who, as a result, only went 2 for 3 with a walk and a hit batter. Guy's unbelievable. He's going to be able to just write a check and say, here's how much I want. $1 billion. $1 billion. Yes, that would be it. But that is our Campus USA play of the weekend. And I had to come up with something good on the Braves because there wasn't much from that game. But they did sweep this weekend, though. All right, let's get to our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Which we always like doing, of course, because Hesser and Kipke is a great Gainesville law firm specializing in the area of workers' compensation and family law. Ken and Jennifer take great pride in their one-to-one focus on each and every client they represent. Ken is board certified in workers' compensation law by the Florida Bar, while Jennifer possesses extensive jury trial experience with a nearly 20-year background as a prosecutor. Don't believe me? Check out their 5-star Google reviews. There's a ton of them on there. Or set an appointment at hklawfl.com. Better yet, give them a call at 352-339-9920, Hesser and Kipke. 3 things. Number 1, I saw where the Cowboys lost another running back. Of course, Tony Pollard's coming back from an injury. Elliott's not there anymore. I don't know what's going to happen with him. Ronald Jones suspended for 2 games because of PEDs, performance-enhancing drugs. So he's out. But my ears perked up because I saw that the guy who's running second behind Tony Pollard is Malik Davis. And I love Malik Davis. I loved him interviewing him. I loved talking to him. I loved him as a running back. He kept getting hurt, and there were all these injuries and everything. But he was really a good player at Florida, and I would love to see him make it. I love it when Gators make it. Now, there's some Gators I would say I don't like. I'm not that happy. I didn't like them when they were here. I'm not going to mention names, but I would love for Malik Davis to make it. Number 2, I did want to bring this up, and it's not sports. But Pee Wee Herman passed away on Sunday night, and Monday night when I got home, we got done with watching our Jack Ryan and stuff, had a great dinner, wife, daughter, and then I said, I'm going to go watch Pee Wee's show, the Pee Wee Herman show. I'm sure I can find it. We have 1 million channels, and I watched the whole thing, an hour long. Laughed and laughed and laughed. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I know he had a little problem there, but I love Pee Wee Herman. I thought he was great. I thought he was great in Below. He was great in Mystery Men, which is an underrated movie. You need to go watch that movie. So him dying at 70, apparently he'd been keeping his cancer kind of a secret for 6 years. So I hate to see that happen, but Pee Wee Herman. Sorry, man. I loved him. Okay. Number 3, it'd be nice if you saw that a guy was coming, a 7'2" guy was coming from Croatia, and he wasn't going to Kentucky, but there is one going there, and his name, I'm sure I'm gonna get it wrong, but I think it's like Vonimir Ivisic. I'm sure we'll all know it. Like we have eventually got Schwebwe, right? We could figure that out. You just gotta take some time, but they got a 7'2" guy. Look. It's like I say with Billy. Billy comes in here and he's recruiting so good, and everybody's like, "Oh, we're going to be great." Yeah, well, Georgia's still recruiting. Then Alabama's still recruiting. Ohio State's still recruiting. Same thing with Florida. I think Todd Gowles done a pretty good job so far, and he's done good in the portal. But Kentucky's still recruiting. Mississippi State's still recruiting. Alabama's still recruiting. Arkansas is still recruiting. You just got to coach. It really comes down to more about coaching in college than it does in the NFL. I'm a big believer, but I may be wrong. Anyway, that's our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Let's get to our Leonardo's quick picks. We actually have a game football-wise to use as our quick picks. I'm so relieved. Okay, New York, Cleveland. If you think you know who's going to win, you're a genius. We have no idea who's going to win because you're going to play the 18 guys are going to be playing this game. It's a Hall of Fame game. It is Thursday, and just pick a winner. Give me a winner. Jets, Browns. That's all you need to get into our Leonardo's at Quick Picks contest. A lot of you got in the last one, and we got a lot of qualifiers. I'm going to have to probably do something pretty soon. Probably next Thursday or Friday. Yeah, probably then. Because we're still not sure if I'm going to have a show Tuesday because of the jury duty. Damn it. All right, our Adams Ribco to go Gator of the weekend. Appreciate our friends over there at Adams Rib Company to go. It does sound good tonight, actually. Hey, that's the funny thing. I go, oh, I want to go to Bally's. I want to go to this. I want to go to Adams. I want to do this. And then I do it. And I eat it. And it's really good. So, it's hard to come up with an Adams Ribco to go Gator of the weekend when we're at this time of the year. But I made it? Brandon Spikes. Brandon Spikes is back at Florida. He is a volunteer coach, and he's getting his degree. And I am so much in favor of guys doing that. It really is cool to see that. And Brandon was a different cat when he was here. He's kind of quiet, didn't talk a lot to the media, but he was a great player. Maybe you can't say he's the best linebacker to ever play here, but I don't know that any linebacker in the history of Florida football made more big plays. The stuff on Noshawn Moreno, I almost said Omar Moreno. That was a baseball player. Noshawn Moreno just dominated the game. What do you have? 4 interceptions for touchdowns, 2 against LSU. So anyway, Brandon Spikes is our Adams Ribco to go Gator of the weekend. Let's get to our Swamp games of the weekend. They're coming up, and yes, the Swamp Restaurant where you can get, go there on Saturday where you can get that sangria. It's a great deal there, and they also have free beer night. You have to pay up cover, but free beer night. There's all kinds of great stuff going on at the Swamp Restaurant. Games of the weekend. We have an NFL game to talk about, and it is, just to let you know, it is at 8 o'clock on NBC, New York, Cleveland. It will get boring after a while. There'll be a bunch of scrubs in there, but you never know who's going to pop up. We do have the Wyndham this weekend. I gave you bad info last week on it. The golf was only going to be on the Golf Channel. It wasn't. I got some bad info. Sometimes you do that. The Wyndham will be on CBS this weekend. And again, this is a huge tournament, and I'm going to be interested in it because the top 70 make it to the FedEx Cup, and like Justin Thomas, not there yet. He's got to play well this weekend, so he needs to. So it'll be a really interesting tournament. And again, it's on CBS. Wednesday we have baseball, Baltimore, Toronto at 7:07 on the Plus. I have the Plus, so I'm going to give you the Plus games. Thursday, Chicago White Sox at Texas on the Plus, 2:05. And then the Yankees are on at 7:15 on Fox, as is the Miami Pittsburgh game. All those games are on Fox at 7:15. Tickets are ridiculous for some of these games, man. I saw they were $360 for one of these baseball games. All right. Anyway, if you want to watch soccer, we don't play forever because that's the way it works. But Argentina and Sweden play Wednesday night, so that's at 3 a.m. if you want to stay up for that. But the winner not the winner, but Sweden probably is going to play the U.S. It may be maybe Italy, but I pay attention to these things, but I'm not watching them at 3 a.m. All right, let's get to our, what do we have left? That's it. We got the Pat Dooley Storytime, and we always love Pat Dooley Storytime. It's brought to you by the great folks at East Lake Pediatrics. We love them over there, and they do a great job sponsoring our golf tournament and everything, and still playing golf balls. I'm almost out of them, though, Mike. I'm going to have to see if we still have a couple around there, but I'm almost out of them. Okay, Pat Dooley Storytime. And I want to tell this story because my daughter's going through a tough time right now with, trying to figure out what she wants to do with her career. And, it's very hard for anybody. She's trying to deal with what do I want to do? And everybody goes through that. I mean, some of us fall into it. Nobody fell into it as easily as I did. I had no ambition, no work ethic, no drive. Quit every job I had. Quit my first job as a dishwasher at Dutch Pantry in St. Augustine after a day. I said, I don't want to do this. And now I'm lecturing my daughter about not quitting jobs. But one day I was in line to get into Florida, and I asked somebody, what's the easiest major? They said, journalism. I said, all right, I'll get into journalism. Get into journalism, okay. Get into it. I'm not good at it. I'm writing cliches and crap. I wrote my first story for the Alligator. What a difference 2 years made for Andy Sumner. I remember that lead, and they said, we're not going to run this. It's terrible. But I worked for the Gainesville Sun for a while, and I learned how to write, and I learned how to get good. But even then, I was telling my daughter this story. You never know. I wanted to stay in college forever. Boy, who wants to leave college? And I was going down to the Florida, North Carolina game, 1976. I'm covering the game for like 4 different newspapers. But that's what I wanted to do. Stay in Gainesville and just do that. And then Bernie Lincecum called and said, hey, can I meet you there? I'm covering the game. I want to talk to you about our high school job. So I said, yeah, sure. So I show up. I got a Panama hat on, like a white brimmed Panama hat. Who wears that anywhere? But I'm wearing it to a job interview. Bernie Lincecum offers me a job. I go, yeah, sure. I guess I will. Took the job, went down to Fort Lauderdale, started my career. Wanted to quit once after a week. I don't want to do this. I want to go back to college. Was talked out of it. Worked out good for me. And that's why I keep thinking to myself, Pat, your daughter's trying to figure out what she wants to do. Let her figure it out. You didn't figure it out. It just came to you. That is Pat Dooley Storytime. And this has been another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. We'll be back with another show. Can't wait for that we'll be up on Friday. Dan Wolken from USA Today will join us, and then we'll see what happens next week depending on jury duty. Until then, I'm Pat Dooley. Thanks to Zach for doing a great job. Thanks for our great intern who's done a tremendous job. He has been, he's given me a little bit of advice, I think a little bit, not a whole lot. But you're gone, right? You can say something on there. You can say something out loud.
Hello all. Hello internet.
Yeah, he's a great guy. All right, we'll be back with the show at the end of the week. Until then, I'm Pat Dooley. I'm deep way back. Out of here.